So we just got back from Bali, which entailed a 20-hour flight both ways with our 2-year-old toddler, Olivia. And while we consider ourselves experienced travelers and we did all the prep work, the research ahead of time for this long flight, we were mistaken, and this flight was nothing but chaotic. And so in this week's video, we're gonna share some critical tips on how you can ensure your long flight with your little one is successful and what mistakes that we learned the hard way for you to avoid along the way. So without further ado, let's cue the intro and get into this week's video.
What's up YouTube? Trevi from the Adventure Buddies, the modern travel family, bringing you another video filled with tips, tricks, and inspiration to make sure you maximize your next family adventure like we always do here at the Adventure Buddies.
So first, let's talk about the overall prep. So things leading up before the flight that helped us be successful. And so that's gonna start with what we actually packed. And so the first thing that we packed, is probably no surprise, is snacks, and even more snacks. And so we wanna make sure that we had ample amount of food to keep her, 1, entertained, 2, to keep her full, but again, ultimately to make sure that she was happy. So a tip there for you is don't rely solely on snacks you can find at the airport because they may not have that familiarity or the snack that your actual toddler is looking for. So best to bring your own snacks that you know are going to work. Another pro tip, in order to save space, we actually put them in Ziploc bags so that we're not taking the large bag of snacks with us and we can fit more variety inside our carry-on. So the next thing to consider when packing is what entertainment. How are you gonna keep this baby entertained during this long flight? So whether that's sticker books, whether that's actual books, whether that's stuffed animals or toys or iPads, screen time, whatever, just wanna make sure that you have a large variety of entertainment because oftentimes they're not gonna stick to that one activity for longer than maybe a few minutes. So make sure you have plenty of variety in entertainment. Quick tip when you are packing for entertainment, try packing a new toy. Why? Well, that new toy is gonna have that novelty. It's gonna allow your kid to be a little bit more curious and they might actually play with it longer than that 2-minute stint. The third thing to consider when packing is how are you gonna get your toddler to actually sleep on the plane? So having a strategy to do that. So things to consider, do you pack your favorite blanket, your stuffed animals, or is there a particular pajama or sleep sack that they like to use? So just kind of understand and have a built-in strategy for how you're gonna get your baby to sleep. Then one last tip when packing, make sure that you pack an extra pair of clothes for yourself and the toddler because accidents are bound to happen, especially on those long flights. So now let's get into the actual in-flight activities and what actually happened. And so for this story, we're gonna start with our 15-hour flight from LAX to Manila. That was our first leg. We left at 11 a.m., which again was a terrible idea to do, but we left there and this was nothing but chaotic to say the least. We struggled so hard to get Olivia to 1, get comfortable, and 2, fall asleep. So on that 15-hour leg, she only slept 3 hours and those just so happened to be the last 3 on the entire flight. So let's get into what we learned the hard way. So the 2 main things that we learned the hard way was entertaining Olivia was a lot harder than expected. So just as we mentioned earlier, she just flew through all the activities. So the activities didn't last us as long as we intended. We thought we could bring her some new sticker books, which were great, but the sticker books, she flew through those so quickly that they were worthless after 5 minutes. The second thing that we did to entertain her was we had her walk up and down the actual aisles of the plane, but we do advise a little bit of caution because she did tend to run versus walk, so it was a little bit dangerous, plus it was a bit disruptive and distracting to the other guests who were trying to sleep. The second main thing that we learned the hard way was that we gave Olivia Benadryl. So Benadryl typically makes your child drowsy. We thought that's gonna be an instant secret sauce to make sure that she actually fell asleep, and we are wrong. And so there are a few cases that Benadryl actually has the inverse effect on toddlers, and Olivia just happens to be one of them. So she was not tired, but she was overly hyper, and that kind of screwed us the entire flight. And so that made us more critical on having to figure out how to entertain her for that first 12 hours of the 15-hour flight. And that, again, was tiring and chaotic to say the least. And so I guess the lesson learned from that is make sure you test out any new medicine ahead of time. So finally we made it to Bali and had a tremendous time and was well worth it once we got there. But quite frankly, we dreaded the flight home. But we made a few slight adjustments that were incredible and actually made the flight home a breeze. So for instance, out of that 20-hour flight, she slept almost 100% of both legs of those flights. So how do we do that? Let's get into that now. So the first major change is they actually had a red-eye flight. So again, scheduling this overnight flight was a game changer. Olivia, her natural sleep schedule just allowed her to just fall asleep instantly. So as soon as we took off, she was out like a light. The other thing too was that we had a longer layover, and so once we got to Manila from Bali, we had about a 5-hour layover. So instead of allowing her to go to sleep or take another nap, we made sure for that 5 hours, we ran her ragged the entire time, so that when she did get on the actual flight for the long haul back to Los Angeles, she was tired and out like a light. The other adjustment that we made was that we struggled on the flight to Bali to actually find a comfortable way to get her to sleep. We tried letting her sleep on the ground, that didn't work, and so instead we were able to hold her up against our chest, allow her to fall asleep, and then slowly drift her into the middle seat where she slept in between my wife and myself. And then again, the other major adjustments is no-brainer, no Benadryl, and so that was extremely helpful and allowed her to sleep again almost 100% of both of the long flights back to Los Angeles. So before we wrap up this video, let's talk through a couple additional lessons learned and a few bonus tips for you here for sticking around all the way to the end of this video. And so while this trip to Bali was absolutely incredible, we stayed at some amazing resorts. If you want to check out some of those, check out the links above here. But again, that flight was a rough one. And so again, some lessons learned for you. If you can, if all possible, try and do red-eye flights only, because you're probably gonna have your baby sleep if that's an actual option. Again, if it is an option, we urge you to try and find flights that are direct and don't have any layovers. Again, you don't want any additional complications in between there. And again, you have to get resettled once again. So direct if possible and financially feasible. Then the other one you need to learn is understand your layovers. Understand, do you have enough time to replenish snacks or drinks? And if not, do you need to put that into considerations when packing out your carry-on? And so do you have the right amount of diapers with you? Do you have all these amenities, or can you replenish at the actual airport? Another one, as we mentioned in the earlier video, make sure you pack extra clothes for everyone, because accidents will happen, and they did. Speaking of everyone, make sure in your travel group, try and share the load with your team. So again, teamwork makes the dream work, and so we're passing baby delivery from myself and my wife to Jake and Gianna. Then our last major lesson, and something that took us a bit to get comfortable with, is just staying flexible and don't stress the small stuff. And again, while Olivia didn't sleep, she was actually fairly pleasant, but we just had to entertain her. So it could have been worse. Yes, we sacrificed a couple hours of sleep on that flight, but we made it for an incredible adventure here in Bali. And last tip for you, make sure you engage the flight attendants for help. So again, the flight attendants are usually gonna be happy to offer extra snacks or even a distraction for the restless little one. So for us, they were actually able to take Olivia off her hands for a little bit. They held her, they played with her, they gave her snacks, etc., and gave us about a 5-minute break. So now it's your turn. What's the longest flight you have ever taken, and how did you guys make it through? Drop a comment down below, share some unique tips or hacks with us, because again, we're trying to learn and build this community around making travel stress-free as a family. So if you found this video helpful, please make sure you give us that big thumbs up, click that red subscribe button for more travel tips and adventures, and be sure to share this video with another parent or someone who could use the additional help going on their next long flight. And most importantly, remember, life's an adventure. Who are you going on with?